Hello and welcome to English and More with me, David. You are in the right place if you would like to speak better English. You might be a B1, lower intermediate English learner, or B2, upper intermediate, maybe C1, advanced, or C2, proficient, and you would like to speak better English. You might be an ESL teacher, English as a second or third or even fourth language. You might be an EFL teacher, English as a foreign language. You might even be a first language English speaker who is just curious about some interesting topics. I will provide you with vocabulary, phrases. We'll talk about why we say things the way we do. Please remember never to try to speak perfectly. Always try to speak well. Nobody speaks perfectly. Not me. Nobody speaks perfectly. Just speak well. Never lose your accent. Keep your accent. Just speak clearly. Native English speakers love foreign accents. And never learn in silence. Always read everything out loud. Read what you're reading so that you can hear what you're reading. You're seeing the words, you're speaking the words, you're hearing the words. You might even feel the words vibrate in your body as you speak. That's a multi-sensory experience. A multi-sensory experience. And it's so good for learning. You will remember what you read so much better than if you do not read it out loud. Please let me remind you that you can get a free resource called 5 Easy Fixes. I'll tell you how to get that later. Just keep watching the video and I'll tell you how to get that later. You can subscribe to my website and you will get the spreadsheet from me at the end of every week. This is one of the documents that you can read out loud. You can read the vocabulary, you can go to the articles, you can read the examples that we go through. This document will be sent to you. You can read it out loud to help you learn. If you have any questions or comments, use the comments section of the video, or you can contact me directly through the website. Let's jump straight to a principle that confuses a few people. I want to call this a rule of grammar. It's just a general rule of when to use the school, the church, the hospital, or the prison, and when not to use the. And it's a pretty simple rule or principle. You go to school to learn in a historical, traditional environment. You go to church to worship in a historical, traditional environment. You go to hospital, not the hospital, you go to hospital as part of something that is just in civilization. That's what we do. It's something traditional, historical, organizational, whereas we do not say that we are going to go to gym. Well, we do say that. That's the problem. It's a bit of a gray area. That's what I say. I say that I'm going to gym today, but it should be the gym. Why? Because it's not a historical, traditional organization like the church, like prison, like hospital, like school. So there's a nice summary over here. Place, school. We go to school to worship. We go to church. No, we go to school to learn, we go to church to worship, we go to prison, hopefully not, but to be locked up for doing something wrong. We go to hospital. It's most cities have hospitals, most places have hospitals, something very familiar, very traditional. The gym is becoming more traditional, more like something that people are very familiar with in civilization. So maybe it's okay to say, I'm going to gym, I'm going to the gym. They are interchangeable. We can swap them, but most of the time just stick to the gym. And I hope that that helps with things like I'm going to the beach today, because it's not universally everywhere, universally accepted that you go to the beach. Universally everywhere in the universe, because, Earth is the center of the universe, universally. It is not universally accepted that the beach is like an organization. No way. I surf. I go to the beach to surf in the ocean. So the beach is kind of in the way of me and the ocean. So I'm actually going to the ocean to surf, and I'm going to the beach to suntan, sunbathe, play volleyball, whatever. But you wouldn't say I'm going to beach. So the simple rule is it an organization, institution, a cultural establishment? And if it is, well, you're probably going to school. You're probably going to church, to hospital, to prison. Hopefully not prison. Just something to think about. You can get the spreadsheet by subscribing to the email list, and you can read through this a bit more carefully. One of the topics from this past week that I spoke about with my clients, all of my clients, is this vertical forest. So let's look at that word, vertical, in the upward direction, and this is horizontal. So horizontal. So this is a vertical forest. It's definitely not horizontal, but this in the background is the horizon, because it's a straight line in that direction. So this vertical forest, I think, is really cool. I like it. I would definitely live in that type of apartment building. No problem for me, but it wasn't very popular with most of my clients. Some people said they would live in this type of apartment building, but many people raised concerns about insects and about maintenance. So insects like spiders and bugs, maybe even the birds could be a bit of a problem, but they were also concerned about maintenance. It would take a lot of extra work and possibly money to keep cutting the trees, trimming the trees. You trim trees. We need to trim the trees. They had an issue with that. So not so much for me. I live in nature anyway. I'm always doing maintenance. We need to do some maintenance. We're always doing outside maintenance in the garden. So not a problem for me, but definitely a problem for some of my clients. Maybe we could take a quick look at what it looked like 10 years ago. So this is the building 10 years ago. It's in Milan, Italy. And the idea was to include a natural feature into the design. So they took trees, planted them in these extended balconies. I suppose a balcony is always extended. So it's a balcony. And this is what it looks like 10 years later. Very interestingly, the people who live there report that it makes them happier. Seeing the trees, hearing the birds, being closer to nature, or at least something natural like a tree, makes them happier. I'm not surprised. I'm happier living in nature. It's great. Let's look at some vocabulary from the articles. So this tab, am I in the right place? Yes. So this is a nice word, fauna. The forest supports diverse fauna, including birds and insects. It's all the animal life in a particular region. Flora, that is the plants. That is the word for the collection of plants and things that grow out of the ground. Maybe not always out of the ground, but things that grow. Vegetation. Fauna, the animals and insects and birds. Flora, more like the plants. Trees have foliage. So foliage means the leaves of plants collectively. Let's look at the example. The building's foliage helps cool the surrounding air, the foliage. So if we look at the picture again, that's a lot of foliage, a lot of leaves, a lot of green material, the foliage, the leaves of the tree. Don't worry about espouses or even sequestering. Let's look at therapeutic. Really nice word. Having healing or calming effects. The hospital's therapeutic gardens aid patient recovery. I think nature is very therapeutic. I love being in nature, makes me feel healthy and happy. It is a therapeutic place to be in. Atrium, a large open space inside a building. The hotel's central atrium features a towering tropical garden, like the central courtyard inside a building, the atrium area. Okay, quenched. You normally quench your thirst with water or beer or Coca-Cola, coffee. Coffee does quench your thirst temporarily, but I think it does make you more thirsty later on. So the rooftop garden is quenched by collected rainwater. That's kind of unusual. You don't normally hear people speak about quenching a plant's thirst or a garden's thirst. It's normally a person's thirst. So that's creative writing. Moving on, manifesto, a public declaration of principles or intentions. The architect's work is a manifesto for sustainable living. So this is also used creatively. Normally it's more formal, like Karl Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto, a long explanation of principles for, in that case, a political system. Smog, that's nice, a combination of smoke and fog. Pollution, heavy fog. The city suffers from heavy smog. Let's look for anything else. Rehabilitation, you can also say rehab. Some people who take drugs, there is the word psychedelic. Skipping that one for now, but you might have to go to heal or restore your health. That's a process of rehabilitation. In this context, it's the hospital's garden aids in patient rehabilitation. So if you're sick, if you're in hospital, if you've had an operation, you heal better. Your rehabilitation process is quicker if you are around plants. Anything else? Nice word, futuristic. Some things look like they belong in the future or they're from the future, so they look futuristic. The futuristic forest city will house 30,000 residents sustainably, or at least that's what they claim. All right, so I'd like to follow up on some of the things that I said in the previous video. I used the word resolution and I was quite unsure about how to use it. In the context of the previous video, it was a political context. Argentina's anti-corruption office cleared Milei in a June 5 resolution. So yeah, it is an official decision or statement. I do use the word slightly differently, not in a political context. There, I would have just said in a June 5 decision. A resolution is normally like, we have a problem and we need to find a solution to the problem. Now, if it's not just a typical normal problem, it might be a situation that needs a resolution. It needs a positive outcome. That's kind of how I use it. But look at this. This is very clear. This is very black and white, no gray area. She kept her resolution not to see Anne anymore. So people make New Year's resolutions, committed decisions to do something, usually in the future. That's why I was a bit confused by the political context here. New Year's resolutions. I also said, and I said it correctly, that there is something that I need to address. Some people were confused by what I said there. It means just something that I need to talk about with you, or just to talk about generally. We need to address your bad behavior. I quickly want to give you 3 vocabulary items to splash out, to knuckle down, and to open a can of worms. So when you splash out, you could literally be splashing water out of a bath or of the shower or of the basin, things that usually contain water, or with a shower, catch water. Yeah, it is meant slightly differently. This is when you spend a lot of money on something, usually as a treat or luxury. She splashed out on a designer handbag after getting her bonus. Splashing out on a new item of clothing or a new piece of technology, a gadget, something really expensive that you wouldn't usually spend the money on. If you're knuckling down on something, you're working hard, especially after a period of not doing so. I really need to knuckle down and finish this project before the deadline. So these are your knuckles. It's like you're squeezing your hands a bit harder and using your hands more, putting your hands on the table, on the workbench, on the desk to work a bit harder. Was that clear? Workbench? The workbench? kind of like the work table, the workbench. Okay, and the final one to open a can of worms, to talk about something really complicated that might lead to more problems. Bringing up politics at the family dinner really opened a can of worms. So think of a can of worms. I've never seen a real can of worms, but if you open the can of worms and theoretically they are alive, they would climb out and it would be difficult or impossible to get the worms back in the can. Religion, politics at the dinner table. Don't open that can of worms. Let's look at the second article. You can see that the theme for the past week's English sessions was alternative housing. I really liked this water tower. Not sure where it is. It looks kind of like Miami-ish, somewhere like Miami. And I love the view. I think it must be great from up there. I think most of my clients said no, hard no, definite no to living in this kind of structure. They didn't like the idea of walking up what must be a lot of steps somewhere in here, but I think it's creative. I think it's different. Yeah, maybe you wouldn't feel very private over there. You would lack privacy. You would not have enough privacy. There would be a lack of privacy. Notice that I said privacy. You can say privacy or privacy. You know, some people say tomato, some people say tomato. Tomato, tomato, a lack of privacy, a lack of privacy. I don't think that would be a problem. You could just close some of the curtains if it has any, if there are any curtains. Some people said they would rather live in a small loft apartment. So this is a loft apartment. I would rather live in something different. Most people said this would be cheaper to buy, cheaper to maintain, cheaper to clean, and you could kind of lock it and leave it. So they were looking for something like a lock and leave living environment. A lock and leave home, rather. So they can just lock it and leave it. Don't have to worry about it. Okay, so is there anything else in this article? Yes, the old railway car was also not very popular with most people, including me. I agree that it must be really uncomfortable to try and live in something like this. However, people did say that they would try it for holiday accommodation. Holiday accommodation. So instead of a hotel room, they would try something like the railway car. Just, for something different. What was interesting is that a lot of people chose to speak about the old jail and even more so the lunatic asylum. So an old madhouse, a place where crazy people used to go, a lunatic asylum, was turned into some fancy houses, apartments, and most of my clients said that they would not live there because of the negative vibe, the negative atmosphere, the feeling of being in a place where people suffered. And that was the same reason why they did not want to live in a renovated jail. It looks really good on the outside. On the inside, you can still see the jail cells. But the jail cells have been converted into fashionable parts of the home. I don't have the pictures available for that right now. Let's look at some vocabulary from this article, Strange Houses. Dilapidated, very common word actually. The abandoned house was so dilapidated that the roof had collapsed. Very poor condition, like a building that's almost falling down. Very bad condition. It's dilapidated. Dilapidated. Okay, let's look at a few other words over here. Eroded. So something that is worn away is eroded. The cliffs had eroded over centuries due to wind and rain. We talk about soil or sand erosion. The sand has kind of slowly, maybe quickly, but usually slowly washed away. If something is ingenious, it's really clever, original, or inventive. His ingenious invention solved a major problem. So he was probably a genius who created an ingenious invention. Surplus, extra. Surplus crops, surplus food, surplus resources, an excess, something extra, and you can sell your surplus. Oh, this looks pretty French, chic. I say chic. I don't know how other people would say it, chic, but chic sounds pretty good. We can actually pronounce chic. Let's see if I'm saying it correctly. I wonder if you'll be able to hear it. Let's hear.
Chic.
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 Chic, why not? So she wore a chic black dress to the party, very stylish, very fashionable. Surreal, a movement in art, but you're strange, dreamlike, or unreal. Walking through the foggy forest felt surreal. FFF, an alliteration. It felt surreal, very strange, very weird. Powerless, you don't have power. You don't have the strength or the ability to act. The villagers were powerless. This is the word I was looking for earlier. Cramped, a cramped loft apartment. It's pretty small. You might feel cramped, like you don't have enough space. Let's look over. Let's look there. The tiny apartment felt too cramped for a family. Notorious, what a great word. Many celebrities and politicians are now notorious. The notoriously slow service at the restaurant. The restaurant was notoriously slow with service. Famous or well known for something bad. Appalling, terrible conditions. Shockingly bad or terrible. Lovely word, swanky. They stayed at a swanky hotel in the city. Luxurious or stylish in an impressive way. I would go further. I would say it's almost too impressive, like it's trying to be more impressive than it really is. I think the better word for that is ostentatious. Maybe I should write that down. Ostentatious. That's when you're trying to show how impressive you really are with like wealth. Ostentatious. Is it IOUS? I hope so. Check my spelling. Don't trust my spelling. Most of the time, I am right. And that's also important. A lot of my clients make this mistake. They say, well, I'm not sure what they say, but they always confuse it. It's most of the time. Right. So sometimes they could say like most time. I am right. That is incorrect. Or, it gets confusing. Let's just leave it there. I'm going to strike through on that one. Most time, I'm right. Most of the time. You could also say most times. Most times, I am right. But the first one is a bit better. The first one is best, actually. Any other words in this article's vocabulary list? Panoramic. Oh, yeah. That water tower home does have a panoramic view. You can see right around from inside the house. And strategic, quite a common word. Carefully planned. The general of the army chose a strategic position for the battle. It's a well-planned position. Okay, let's look at some of the suggestions that I have for this week. These are my mistakes from the previous video. I should have said that more clear. I should have said clearly. I should have said that more clearly. So clearly is the adverb. How are you saying that? You are saying that clearly. It's like quickly. He runs quickly. Now, adverbs are tricky. There are many exceptions to the rule. Like if you want to say, oh yeah, you did that very good. You wouldn't say goodly. You would say, well, I did that very well. You are a good athlete. You performed really well. So there are many exceptions. Let's do something useful for it. The money should be let's do something useful with it. The money. You do useful things with resources and you do useful things for people. People are not resources. I said at the website. I should have said on the website. It's kind of the same as on television. You're watching a show on television, not in television. One of my clients said at Saturday, they went to the zoo. It should be on Saturday. You were at the zoo place on Saturday. When? So on Saturday, we went to the zoo. He said it don't have to be really new. Should be doesn't. It doesn't. He doesn't. She doesn't. We don't. They don't. And some other things don't. So it, singular, doesn't have to be really new. They told that there are fewer regulations. For told, you need someone to tell it to, right? They told us that there are fewer regulations. They said that there are fewer regulations is also fine because you don't need the person or the thing that you're saying it to. So they said that, or they told us that. Let's do a few more. He don't complain should be he doesn't complain. They don't, we don't. He doesn't, she doesn't, it doesn't. Some departments has to sign it. Plural, obviously, so they have to sign it. Some departments have to sign it. If you do a mistake, should be if you make a mistake. It's not terrible. Much better to say if you make a mistake. The bottom is bended. Okay, so this client couldn't remember the past tense of the word bend, which is bent. The bottom is bent. We have to restrain it a bit, so that is grammatically correct. The word is okay, but it's the wrong word because they wanted to reinforce part of a structure, part of a building, make it stronger. And someone said, I registrate online. That person meant to say the past tense of register, which is registered. I registered online. If you want to learn quickly, you should be reading everything out loud. You should be reading everything aloud. Subscribe to the email list. I'll send you this document in PDF form via email or via email, tomato, through email. That is the method that I will use to send it to you. You can read out the example sentences, the corrections on my suggestion tab. You can look at the vocabulary items, splashing out, knuckling down, open a can of worms, read everything out loud, and you will learn and remember what you learn so much better than if you don't. Please let me remind you that I have 2 books. You can support the channel by checking out these books at Amazon.com. And should you wish to have English lessons with me, I call them English sessions because you will teach me a lot of things as well. It's not just a one-way lesson. It's a session. We will communicate extensively during the session. Your English will improve and I will learn something about the world because of your unique perspective. If you get these books, read parts of the books, and should you choose to work with me, you will have a lot of questions. There will be a lot we can talk about, so they are there. Please be aware that there is also a short free resource that you can get by going to my website and clicking free ebook. This button will also sign you up to my email list. You just need to confirm the subscription and you will automatically receive a free ebook of about 20 pages called 5 Easy Fixes. Everyone who has seen the content, the stuff inside the book, the content of the book, thinks that it is really useful. So make use of it. It's there. It's free. I will also send you the weekly spreadsheet in PDF form. Read it aloud. I know I've said that many times, but just it makes such a difference. Okay, thank you for your attention. I hope that has helped you improve your English. Follow along with subtitles if you need to. Rewatch the video, pause the video, say things out loud, and you will improve so much quicker than if you don't do that. See you next time. Ciao.